Nepal will host the 4th BIMSTEC summit from today. BIMSTEC is an acronym for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Kathmandu today to attend the BIMSTEC summit. The two-day summit will focus on trade, connectivity and counter-terrorism.
ये नेता जो है वो लोग काठमांडू डिक्लेरेशन इशू करेंगे. उसमें बहुत सारे मुद्दे हैं जिन पे फोकस्ड एक्शन रहेगा बिम्स्टेक की तरफ से. यहाँ पर टॉक है एक किस्म का कोई फाइनेंशियल अरेंजमेंट हो जिससे कि चीज़ें आगे बढ़ सकें. कुछ और मुद्दे हैं, ट्रेड के मुद्दे हैं, कस्टम फैसिलिटेशन के मुद्दे हैं, टेररिज्म, काउंटर टेररिज्म पे कोऑपरेशन के मुद्दे हैं. तो वो सब आगे जाएंगे और एक किस्म का जिसको कहते हैं दिशा, डायरेक्शन दी जाएगी बिम्स्टेक के लिए.
BIMSTEC comprises of 7 members: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar and Thailand. BIMSTEC is home to around 1.6 billion people, which constitutes about 23% of the total world population. BIMSTEC accounts for a $3 trillion economy, which is 4% of the global GDP and 3.7% of global trade. 5 of the 7 BIMSTEC members are located in South Asia, and the remaining 2, Myanmar and Thailand, in Southeast Asia. India and the 4 other South Asian countries in BIMSTEC are members of SAARC as well. Myanmar and Thailand are members of ASEAN. 6 BIMSTEC members are also part of SASEC, or South Asian Sub-Regional Economic Cooperation. Except Nepal and Bhutan, all BIMSTEC members border the Bay of Bengal. And now being joined by Arun Singh, former Indian ambassador to the United States and many other countries. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on World is One News. I'm going to begin by asking this. SAARC as a bloc has been rendered largely ineffective for India because of Pakistan's non-cooperation, be it in terms of connectivity or in terms of counter-terrorism measures. In that context, help us, help understand the viewer how important this BIMSTEC 4th summit is.
The BIMSTEC 4th summit is clearly very important, and not only because SAARC process has stalled. Of course, the fact is that the SAARC process has stalled because Pakistan continues to sponsor terrorism against India, and it has also prevented substantive progress within the framework of SAARC on many cooperation issues, including connectivity. For example, they don't allow India direct access to Afghanistan through the land route. They have essentially stalled progress for political reasons. Yeah. But regional connectivity is important in the global context. So keeping that in mind, and if you look at BIMSTEC and the countries and their geographical spread, as you just explained, it becomes important for several reasons. One, for our northeastern states, because the northeastern states of India are land-bound, and therefore for them to enhance their options, connectivity, access to the sea, be it through Bangladesh, be it through Myanmar, or building linkages through other countries in the Bay of Bengal area, would enhance opportunities for those in the northeastern part of India for trade and economic relations. So that's one aspect. Second, more and more the blue economy, the ocean economy, is getting importance. So be it fishery resources, other resources on the seabed, be it issues related to natural disasters, climate change. So cooperation in framework of the bordering oceans is an important area for national welfare. So again, for that reason, the countries that are bordering the Bay of Bengal should cooperate with each other.
Yeah. So at this stage, I would like to ask you, yes, these two are been the most overarching objectives of BIMSTEC ever since the grouping began. But at this point in time, certainly counter-terrorism or security cooperation would be on top of the agenda, especially for India and in fact all the BIMSTEC countries, considering that this grouping does not involve Pakistan.
So far BIMSTEC didn't make much progress because the 5 countries who are also part of SAARC were focused more on cooperation within the SAARC framework. Okay. And the 2 countries who are part of ASEAN Myanmar and Thailand were focused more on cooperation within the framework of ASEAN. Okay. But I think there is a general recognition on both sides of this 7-member grouping that we should now look also at cooperating with each other. And another dimension, as you referred to security, counterterrorism, is the fact that everyone now has to deal with the consequences of a rising China. And as China has risen, its footprint has expanded. Yeah. Not just in East China Sea, South China Sea, but also in the Bengal region. They have a growing presence in Myanmar. In Thailand, certainly, they've had a historical presence. We see a growing footprint in Nepal, a growing footprint in Sri Lanka.
Nepal was our all-weather friend for the longest time, but then there was that resentment about India being the big bully, the big brother to Nepal, and now Nepal has welcomed China with open arms, and we're talking about at a time when the BIMSTEC summit is being hosted by Nepal in Kathmandu, because Nepal is the chair of BIMSTEC, and that's important to India to sort of re-engineer ties with Nepal.
So I would put it slightly differently, in the sense that all small countries tend to have problems with their big neighbors, and it's not just in the context of India. And India's size is disproportionate compared to its neighbors. And all the smaller neighbors try to develop other relationships to hedge. And therefore it is inevitable that India's neighbors, be it Sri Lanka, Nepal, even Bangladesh, will look at developing other relationships in a way to balance out the relationship with India, to hedge. We only have to make sure that whatever be the nature of cooperation, it does not adversely affect India's security interests. So keeping that in mind, as China's footprint has expanded, you'd have seen that more and more countries in the region and globally are talking of the Indo-Pacific, that we want to build a new architecture of security and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. So they are talking of cooperation in the framework of ASEAN, India, Japan, US trilateral cooperation. There's talk of India, Japan, Australia trilateral cooperation, India, Japan, Australia and the United States quadrilateral cooperation. So many frameworks of cooperation are developing to deal with the consequences of rising China. In all this, there's a little bit of vacuum related to cooperation in the Bay of Bengal region, because none of these other networks deal with that.
And BIMSTEC is looking to address that vacuum, so to speak.
Exactly, and therefore it is important for India to be in the lead, to take the initiative.
And India has been in terms of pushing BIMSTEC, especially in the last in the recent years, since SARC as a bloc was turning out to be a problem. We were talking about trilateral groupings and stuff. I had to ask you, the bilaterals as part of BIMSTEC is very, very important, because India, for example, today there's a bilateral with Sri Lanka, there's a bilateral with Bangladesh, and there are many more. With the Kathmandu declaration, set to be made tomorrow. Help us understand these two things: the bilaterals for India. What are the bilaterals that are going to be crucial for India at BIMSTEC, and more importantly, what do you think the Kathmandu declaration, as part of BIMSTEC's 4th summit, is going to contain?
Again, it is very natural on the sidelines or the margins of multilateral meetings for the bilateral meetings to take place. And from the reports we have seen, the Prime Minister would be meeting the leaders of all other countries who are present there. And during these bilateral meetings, there would certainly be some discussion on how they are looking at BIMSTEC, assess its progress, where they would like to take it, and also look at some of the areas of bilateral cooperation between them, because this is again an opportunity for them to assess, give directions to their officials on how they want to move ahead. So that's certainly that's going to happen. But in terms of the Kathmandu declaration, as has been indicated in several statements that have come out, the aim would be to assess the progress made in the past 21 years, which has not been very significant. But then, more importantly, to give directions for the path ahead. Because I think there is an inflection point today. There is a recognition that BIMSTEC has become very important. And if the countries in the region do not act proactively to set a new framework of cooperation, new architecture for security, others will step into this vacuum. And for India, our Andaman and Nicobar Islands are located right in the middle of the Bay of Bengal. So again, it becomes very, very important.
All right. Arun Singh, thank you so much for joining us here. But less than an hour away, in fact, from the formal inauguration of the 4th BIMSTEC summit in Kathmandu. But for now, thank you so much for giving us this curtain raiser. Thank you.